This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, February 19th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the Democratic presidential candidates debate again tonight, but this time with a difference. Former New York City mayor and multi-billionaire Michael Bloomberg takes the stage for the first time, and the other candidates are set to train their fire on him. Thousands of Americans go bankrupt every year because of their medical debt. But we're going to show you how two former debt collectors found a way to stop collecting debt and to start forgiving it. My interview with one of the most famous actors in America, Harrison Ford, about his new movie out this weekend, The Call of the Wild, and revival in Tennessee as churches come together in one county for fasting and prayer. And they say the Holy Spirit has taken over. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of Newswatch. We begin this half hour with tonight's Democratic debate in Las Vegas, where multi-billionaire Michael Bloomberg will take the stage against his opponents for the first time. The former New York City mayor has already spent more than $400 million of his own money on advertising, although he hasn't been involved in the early races and won't be on the ballot in Saturday's Nevada caucuses. Democrats have already gone on the attack against Bloomberg.
Here is the message. Anybody here worth $60 billion, you can run for president. And you can buy the airwaves. My friends, that is called oligarchy, not democracy.
No, he's definitely trying to buy the race, but here's the thing. It's not that simple. You have to actually be willing to look voters in the eye, to take questions. At some point, you've got to be ready to be challenged.
This is about our values, what kind of a nation we want to be.
But despite Bloomberg's massive ad buying so far, new polls still show Bernie Sanders with a double-digit lead among Democratic candidates. Also appearing in Nevada this weekend, President Donald Trump will be making a speech before Democrats vote in their caucus. The Department of Justice is pushing back against media reports Attorney General Bill Barr is considering resigning after President Donald Trump wouldn't listen to his warning to stop tweeting about the Justice Department's cases. A Justice Department spokesperson tweeting, addressing Beltway rumors, the Attorney General has no plans to resign. The report that Barr might resign came days after Barr took a public swipe at the president, saying the president's tweets made it impossible for him to do his job. President Trump insisted he has a legal right to intervene in criminal cases, but also says he knows he makes things difficult for Barr.
I do make his job harder. I do agree with that. I think that's true. He's a very straight shooter. We have a great attorney general.
Barr also denied the president ever asked him to do anything in a criminal case. New questions over the U.S. military strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. A recent White House memo to Congress does not cite an imminent threat, leading Democrats to question the legitimacy of the attack. But one security expert tells CBN's Eric Phillips there were strong indications of Iran's next move.
We sat down with Michael Pregent, a well-connected Middle East intelligence expert who's also fought in that region. He provided insight on so-called chatter regarding the situation and how it harkened back to the 1979 hostage situation.
He was worse than Osama bin Laden. He was worse than Baghdadi. He was worse than Zarqawi.
That's why last month, at my direction, the U.S. military executed a flawless precision strike that killed Soleimani and terminated his evil reign of terror forever.
It was the best move we could have made.
Michael Pregent of the Hudson Institute says the clear picture provided by sources of the threat Soleimani posed to the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad made his demise a must.
The chatter was that they were going to do a 1979 hostage siege. They were going to take over the embassy, take all the Americans in the embassy hostage, and then broker release for sanctions relief.
While Soleimani was the main target, Pregent says the other terror leader killed in the strike would have also played a key role in the siege.
The chatter was they were going to put Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes in as prime minister, so do a coup, and then seize the embassy.
Pregent says when militia forces penetrated the U.S. Embassy on December 31st, it was essentially a dress rehearsal for what was to come.
They walked into the embassy without weapons, trashed it, saw how close they could get to it, saw that they could throw things over, saw that they could get as close as to almost breaking the windows where the U.S. guards were on the other side. The next thing they wanted to do was roll through the embassy in a protest of civilians with Iraqi flags and make it look like the protesters were taking the embassy, when it would actually be the militias.
Pregent says if Soleimani and al-Muhandis had lived, a coup was all but certain.
Killing Qasem Soleimani was actually a de-escalating event. It sent a message to the regime that the president was really serious about hurting Iran.
Pregent also addressed the tidal wave of criticism the president faced as Democrats demanded the intelligence that led to the decision to take out Soleimani. Pregent points out it's important to remember that intelligence does not confirm an imminent attack. It only hints at one. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Eric, thank you. Virginia lawmakers are set to pass bills that could impact how churches and other faith-based organizations operate. The controversial bills focus on discrimination in public places and employment based on a number of factors, including gender and sexual orientation. But opponents say the bills infringe on the religious beliefs of churches and private faith-based schools by dictating who may attend or work there and even how their restrooms are set up. In a speech opposing the measure, Republican David LaRocque said, "Make no mistake, this bill is intended to dismantle religious freedom and to force the government to make everyone conform to its version of marriage and sexuality." With major changes that are happening in Virginia, some in the Commonwealth are thinking about heading west. It's a result of newly empowered Democrats in the state capital of Richmond moving the state's laws in a liberal direction. Many people in the Commonwealth have more in common with their brothers across the mountains in West Virginia than they do with their fellow Virginians in more urban areas, and they have an invitation to join them. Jennifer Wishon brings us this story.
What originally started as moral support has morphed into something much more.
West Virginia State Delegate Gary Howell is inviting his disaffected neighbors to cross the line and switch sides, so to speak.
We see that kindred spirit on the other side of the mountains, and that's why we want to give that help to our fellow Virginians. They're just like us.
He's behind a resolution that would allow Virginia localities, with the permission of their local and state governments plus West Virginia voters, to join the Mountaineer State. Any locality can join, not just those along the state border. The Democratic majority in Virginia's legislature is churning out a slew of new laws on abortion, gun control, and special LGBT protections. Many longtime Virginians no longer recognize their state. Have you had any takers?
We have, Virginia counties reaching out to us.
Tonight, some folks in our area are hoping to take West Virginia up on an offer to join them.
Vexit, or the Virginia Exit, has shown up on at least one Board of Supervisors agenda, and other localities are reportedly interested. Howell is fielding practical questions about whether or not professional licenses would transfer.
We've looked at integrating state police, highways, retirement system.
Even West Virginia's governor is on board.
If you're not truly happy where you are, we stand with open arms to take you from Virginia or anywhere you may be. We stand strongly behind the Second Amendment, and we stand strongly for the unborn.
Governor Justice, who dramatically changed his party affiliation to Republican at a Trump rally, says his state offers beauty, a growing economy, and a motto many Virginians may find appealing: Mountaineers are always free.
Richmond has a habit of upsetting the counties to the west, and it's a pattern for Richmond.
West Virginia split from Virginia in 1863 over disagreements about the Civil War.
Somebody asked me once, said, "Do you think this is the start of the next Civil War?" And I said, "No, this is what prevents it."
Coming up, thousands of Americans go bankrupt every year because of medical debt, and it's even become a political issue in the presidential race. But two former medical debt collectors have come up with a way to stop collecting those debts and instead to start forgiving them. We're going to bring you this story when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Well, imagine this. You owe thousands of dollars in medical debt and you can't possibly pay, and suddenly it's wiped away. Well, that's exactly what happened to a number of families in one community. Two former medical debt collectors found a way to stop collecting debt and to start forgiving it. So exactly how did they do it? Caitlin Burke explains.
Thousands of Americans go bankrupt each year because of medical debt. The issue consistently polling as a top priority for 2020, and presidential hopefuls are taking advantage by pushing to reform a healthcare system that often sends patients home with surprise medical bills.
Access to healthcare should be a right.
I would call it Medicare for all who want it.
Bernie Sanders plans to eliminate all of America's medical debt, saying, quote, I am sick and tired of seeing over 500,000 Americans declare bankruptcy each year because they cannot pay off the outrageous cost of a medical emergency or a hospital stay. Under his plan, the federal government would negotiate and pay off billions of dollars in unpaid medical debt that's already being held by collection agencies.
It's a great idea, but here's the thing. It's already being done, not by the federal government, but by the church.
We were able to, in partnership with RIP Medical, to wipe away a little over $10 million in debt.
Stephen Hayes is the senior pastor of Covenant Church in Dallas, Texas. On Easter Sunday last year, he congratulated his church for erasing the medical debt of community families and veterans.
And so, Covenant, because of your, without even me saying a thing or raising extra money, because you've already been so generous, we had money set aside in our benevolence fund, our missions fund, because you gave above and beyond what was needed. 4,229 families this week will be getting a letter in the mail within a 20-mile radius of every campus saying your debt is completely gone.
And get this, it only took a $100,000 donation from Covenant to wipe out $10.5 million in debt. If you're thinking the math doesn't quite add up, you're correct. Covenant teamed up with a nonprofit called RIP Medical Debt.
We go find the debt that matches what our donors care about. Or we tell them, over the next year, we're going to be buying X amount of debt, and would you please support us? So they'll support us that way, instead of just generally what they always care about. So, and then what we do is we abolish it. It's a no strings attached gift.
RIP Medical Debt, started by former debt collectors Craig Antico and Jerry Ashton, buys unpaid medical debt held by collection agencies, like where they used to work. By that point, it can be bought at significantly reduced rates. In the case of Covenant Church, each dollar donated bought $100 in debt.
100 to 1, or even a little more than 100 to 1, is an amazing return on a dollar. I mean, $10,000 gives $1 million of debt forgiveness. $10 million abolishes $1 billion of debt. $1 billion of debt is about 300,000 people.
Hayes says debt forgiveness is a familiar message to Christians and an effort the church should champion.
In Scripture, when Jesus was on the cross, he made 7 statements, or 7 different statements before he took his last breath. And the 6th of those 7 was the word tetelestai in the Greek, which means it is finished. And that word tetelestai was the same word that other tax collectors and other people that handled money would use when your bill was paid in full. It was like the big red paid stamp. So if you had a debt and you paid your debt, that tax collector would write on your debt, it is finished, tetelestai.
Medical debt is a serious problem in the United States. Perhaps the church is the solution. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Dallas, Texas.
Still ahead, The Call of the Wild opens in theaters this weekend based on the legendary book by Jack London. Up next, my interview with a legendary actor starring in that movie, Harrison Ford. Stay with us.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The Call of the Wild hits American theaters this week. It is the latest adaptation of Jack London's literary classic published back in 1903, and it stars a Hollywood legend, Harrison Ford. I recently traveled to Los Angeles to sit down with him. Photographers shout his name as he walks yet another red carpet. But at 77, with more than 50 films under his belt, Harrison Ford is still a reluctant Hollywood star.
No, it means the ice is gonna break up.
His latest film is The Call of the Wild.
You play John Thornton, Charlton Heston's play the role, Clark Gable's play the role, but I understand you didn't go back and look.
No. Those guys are really good actors. I don't want to be intimidated.
Intimidated?
You love him.
Hard to imagine Han Solo.
Dad! Oh, Dad! Oh, Dad! What? Head for the fireplace!
Or Indiana Jones intimidated by anything.
Hey.
Ford brings his own signature style to the age-old John Thornton character.
Watch yourself.
Last boat to Dawson, leaving now. Miss it, it's only sledge till spring.
That's mine.
Here we sit. This book was written in 1903 by Mr. London, and we're still talking about this story. I know.
Yeah.
Why are we so connected to this story?
I don't know. I mean, you read it, and the language is kind of archaic and dense, but the experience that is described in the book is one that it's hard to come by. But there are powerful elemental truths in the story, and one of them is the power of nature, the destiny that we each have, and a sense of responsibility to each other as members of the animal kingdom.
At its heart, this is a story about a man and his dog, and a bit more.
In John Thornton's case, when he finds Buck, he finds a companion for an adventure. It changes John Thornton's life. As Buck is finding his destiny and hearing the call of the wild, Thornton, out of his relationship with Buck, is finding the courage to go back and face his reality, to find the courage to go back and clean up the mess he's left behind.
Is there a Buck, or has there been a Buck in your life?
There have been animal bucks, and there have been human bucks in my life. People that have given me courage and to face my destiny, encouraged me to be useful.
You've had some great leading roles: Star Wars, Indiana Jones, top of mind. You play the lead in this film as well. But I heard you say you don't need to be a leading man anymore.
Well, I don't want to. I mean, I've always wanted to be a character actor. You mentioned the films you mentioned. Yes, I was a leading man in those films.
Mm-hmm.
But the success of those films also let me do 40 other films, many of which were concentrated on character and different kinds of emotional contexts, comedies, films about people that changed our world, and so that I've had that my attachment to the success of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg has given me not just the opportunity to serve them in their films, but to do other kinds of things, and this is one of those other kinds of things.
You ready to go back for Indiana Jones?
And I am ready to go back for Indiana Jones. I love making those movies. They're great family films, as this is. And I'm honored to be able to make that kind of film.
The Call of the Wild is in theaters this Friday, and tonight on Studio 5, we've got an all-access, behind-the-scenes look at the film with the stars Harrison Ford, Omar Sy, and Cara G. And the producers and directors are giving us an inside look at how the film was made using a mixture of live action and animation. Of course, you can catch Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel tonight at 9:30 Eastern Time. Coming up, pastors in Tennessee say revival is exploding among various churches, and they say it shows God is moving. We're going to have that story when we come back. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Revival is taking place in Tennessee as churches from various denominations have partnered together in prayer and fasting. East Rogersville Baptist Church has been the launching pad. It's part of Awaken Tennessee. Dove Award-winning singer-songwriters Terry and Barbie Franklin came to Rogersville to lead worship services for the revival. Awaken Tennessee is a 30-day initiative for prayer and fasting that started January 26th. It runs through February 23rd. The church pastor told Rogersville Review newspaper, this past Sunday, the Holy Spirit came and took control. Now, you can see the full story at CBNNews.com. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is love. Know this, love is more than a word and much more than a feeling. It's a choice, and it demands action. God chose to love us, and the scripture tells, because he loves us, he gave his only son for us. That's love. I encourage you to choose love today and make this a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. The address is there on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at any time. Hope you will join us again right here next time. Make it a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.